making the best of things. Hear that, Grandad? The siren going at the fire station. Makes my stomach go up and down. That's the rotor going round. Rotor? Rotor sucks in air, then shoves it out again. Makes that noise go up and down. That's what makes your stomach go up and down too. When I was a fireman, said Grandad, we didn't have a siren. We rang a brass bell. On the fire engine, we had one bell on top of the fire station to call us for a fire, and the other on top of the engine. We ran to the station, jumped aboard, and away we went, hanging on with one hand, pulling on our helmets and coats and trousers and boots with the other, shouting and donging the bell to tell everyone to get out of our way. What sort of fire engine? When I joined the fire brigade, we had a brass Silsby, hand pump on a wagon pulled by two big horses, and everyone wore brass helmets. Horses too? Same as ours, but with holes for the ears to stick through. We were very proud of our brass helmets. Every spare minute between fires, we sat in a row outside the fire station, men and horses, polishing them with brasso. We polished the bell and the brass pump on the engine, and the big bell on top of the station roof, and the nozzle on the hose, that was brass, and had to be polished too, and the buttons on our uniforms, and the buckles on our belts. Gosh, must have looked shiny. When we were galloping to a fire, the horses and the firemen all wearing their brass helmets, shouting, neighing, waving their bright axes and ringing the bell, people put their hands over their eyes and fingers in their ears. Did the horses have axes too, Grandad? They wanted them, but horses don't wear belts. Anyway, they clanged their brass helmets against each other, struck sparks with their iron shoes, and the bell on the fire engine rang, and everyone yelled. Putting out fires was much more fun in those days. More fun? That's what the firemen are there for, you know, to have fun. Did the horses have fun too? Oh, more fun than us. Did Granny know you enjoyed putting out fires? That was the trouble. What happens? She found out what we'd painted across the front of our fire engine. What? Grandad looked behind the big hydrangea. What did you paint across the front of your fire engine? He put a hand over his mouth and whispered, Hurrah! You painted hurrah? Shh! She'll hear. Across the front of your fire engine? In letters 3 feet high. Your grandmother didn't approve of that. Why not? She said we were supposed to be putting out fires, not having fun. She said it was high time I grew up and learned to behave myself, got a proper job. When I told Granny what Grandad had been telling me, she sniffed and said to hold the other end of the sheet so she could fold it. Oh, I wanted to have fun too, said Granny. I wanted to ride on the fire engine, ring the bell, squirt water on the flames. But your grandfather said that a woman couldn't be a fireman, so I told him, That's it, you find yourself a proper job that isn't any fun. I fixed him. So neither of you had any fun? Granny folded the sheet and nodded. Life's like that, dear. You have to make the best of things. I found Grandad in the garden. Granny said she fixed you for telling her that she couldn't be a fireman. Fixed me. Next time the bell rang for a fire, my uniform had vanished. Had Granny hidden it? She put it on, run down the road, and jumped on the fire engine, yelling louder than anyone else. Oh, they must have known it wasn't you. With my brass helmet, my trousers, and my jacket, she looked just like me. By the time I gave up looking for my uniform, ran down to the fire station, they'd put out the fire. Your grandmother took off the big brass helmet so everyone could see it was her, and all the other firemen laughed and said she was a better fireman than me. That was mean. You think that's mean? What about this? Your grandmother and her friends bought their own fire engine, one with a petrol motor instead of horses, and they raced us to the next fire and put it out before we could even get there. We were that embarrassed. What did you do? I knew it was no good trying to beat your grandmother, so I made the best of things and gave up being a fireman. Once I wasn't a fireman, your grandmother didn't want to be one either. What happened to the horses? After you got lorries for fire engines? They were put out to grass, and you used to see them mooching around the paddocks, still wearing their big brass helmets. Of course, that was years ago. Did the horses grow old and die? Suppose they did. But life's like that. You've got to make the best of things. That's what Granny says. I know. I learned it from her.